Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. One person is dead and dozens are injured after a flight from London to Singapore hit turbulence today. What we know so far and what a passenger says about the experience. A defense witness, Robert Costello, is back on the stand in what could be the last day of witness testimony, the latest from the ongoing Trump trial in New York. Lawmakers react to the ICC decision, which Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says sets a dangerous precedent for countries defending against terrorist organizations. Former President Trump overtakes President Biden for the first time in fundraising, and the Kennedy campaign takes in some major cash. What that means, and a look at some key swing states. Cyberattacks against water utilities are on the rise nationwide. The Environmental Protection Agency is urging immediate action. Amid rising tensions around the world, how much funding will the U.S. allocate to the State Department? Secretary of State Antony Blinken is making his request to lawmakers today.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
One person is dead and 30 more are injured after a flight from London to Singapore hit turbulence today. The flight had to make an emergency landing in Bangkok, Thailand. Singapore Airlines confirmed the incident and offered its condolences to the family of the passenger who died. Online data shows the plane tilting upward and returned to its cruising altitude over the space of a minute. A passenger said a dramatic drop led to those not wearing seatbelts hitting overhead cabins. He added that some people dented the cabins with their heads because of the impact. Over 200 passengers and almost 20 crew were on the flight. Medical personnel boarded the plane to assess injuries after the emergency landing. Turning to former President Trump's New York trial, prosecutors are set to finish their cross-examination of witness Robert Costello today. The defense called him a rebuttal witness to former lawyer Michael Cohen. Here's the former president this morning.
It's a kangaroo court. There's never been anything like this that I've ever seen. Now I have two other trials that were kangaroo courts also. It's stacked up. Every single scholar says there's been no crime, he's done nothing wrong. And I'm fighting for 300 million people. I mean, I have no choice. It's not that I like doing this, sitting in an icebox all day for 7, 8, 9 hours. And it's a very cold room, I will tell you that. But I'm doing this because our country needs it. Our Constitution's under threat. Our country needs it. So here I am. But we have a phenomenal case. We've won the case by any standard. Any other judge who would have thrown this case out. Any other judge would have thrown this case out.
And the defense begins its case in Trump's so-called hush money trial in dramatic fashion. The trial is moving fast and could be over as soon as next week. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has highlights from yesterday's court proceedings.
A dramatic day in court Monday as the prosecution rested its case against former President Trump. Former attorney Michael Cohen revealed during cross-examination he stole $60,000 from the Trump Organization. Among the first witnesses for the defense was lawyer Robert Costello, who once worked as Cohen's legal advisor. A Trump lawyer said his testimony would show certain things Cohen claimed were false. But just minutes into testimony, Costello found himself in hot water with Judge Juan Merchan. Reporters in the courtroom said Costello rolled his eyes and was audibly disdainful when the judge sustained prosecutors' objections. Costello reportedly asked the court to strike questions from the record, drawing Merchan's ire. Merchan at one point cleared the courtroom of the jury and reporters. Court transcripts mention the judge scolding Costello for being, quote, contemptuous. The defense resumed its questioning of a more calm Costello after this. Trump had this to say about the exchange after court.
You saw what happened to a highly respected lawyer's pay, Bob Costello. Wow. I've never seen anything like that. Highly respected.
Costello testified Trump knew nothing about Cohen's payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Trump's lawyers asked the court to dismiss the case, arguing there is no evidence of criminal intent. From the filing of business records to the stories about Trump's alleged affair with model Karen McDougal. Prosecutors say the trial record shows there is evidence that Trump falsified business records and that a dismissal is not warranted. The judge said he was reserving his judgment. Costello's testimony is expected to resume Tuesday. The judge said he expects closing arguments by May 28th. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And now we're bringing in Paul Kamenar for more on the former president's ongoing trial in New York. Paul is lead counsel at the National Legal Policy Center. Paul, the prosecution wrapped up yesterday with their star witness, former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, on the stand. It came out during testimony that Cohen stole tens of thousands of dollars from the Trump organization. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that was amazing. It came out over cross-examination by Trump's attorney. And what it shows is that not only is Michael Cohen a perjurer and a liar, but he's also a thief. That's a grand larceny under New York law, and that's a more serious crime than what they're charging Trump with. And the fact that the prosecutor knew this and still put him on the stand is just amazing. And it's too bad the statute of limitations ran on Cohen, because he should be indicted for the theft from the Trump organization.
And with Michael Cohen's testimony done, did it help or hurt the prosecution's case in some?
Oh, I think the testimony of Michael Cohen definitely helped the defense during the cross-examination. They tore him apart in terms of all his lies and inconsistencies, and especially about whether he made this telephone call to Trump when he called Keith Schiller and said he was complaining about some 14-year-old girl harassing him on text messages. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I also talked to Trump." But he didn't say that originally about this other call to Schiller during the grand jury and so forth. So they're trying to repair that by showing the prosecution saying, well, here's a screenshot of Trump and Schiller on the stage at a rally in Florida or something like that. So I think overall, Cohen's testimony helped the defense and hurt the prosecution.
Now, the defense called former Cohen advisor, attorney Robert Costello, to the stand yesterday. Talk about his testimony.
Yeah, and he's on the stand right now as we're speaking. And his testimony was basically saying, look, I represented Michael Cohen, and Michael Cohen told me many times that he had no evidence that Trump did anything wrong and so forth. And now, so that's pretty damning evidence. But unfortunately, yesterday there was a little kerfuffle in the courtroom with Costello on the stand and crossing arms with, so to speak, sparring with the judge, and the courtroom had to be cleared for that, or was cleared, and which is wrong because you can't throw the media out of a public courtroom. So anyway, I think Costello made some good points, but I think now the prosecution's going back this morning, and saying, well, aren't you really trying to basically ingratiate yourself with Trump, and you had some problems with Cohen, so they're trying to discredit his testimony.
And as you mentioned, Costello is on the stand as we're talking. Can you tell us a little bit more about who Robert Costello is?
Sure. Costello he's a very experienced attorney, by the way. He was the former head of the criminal division in the Southern District of New York. He's been there many times on the prosecution side, and so he was helping Michael Cohen when he started to get in trouble when the Southern District of New York was going after Cohen back in 2018, and it was helping him out. In fact, he was then called to testify at the grand jury where they were going to indict Michael Cohen, and he said, look, here's some text messages that I've got that exonerate Trump, et cetera. But the prosecutor's saying, no, we don't want to let the grand jury see this stuff. So he's got a background both in criminal prosecution as well as connection with Michael Cohen, as well as with Rudy Giuliani. So he's got a very experienced background.
And as Costello testifies today, what should we be looking for in his testimony?
Well, he's being cross-examined right now. So we're just going to look for whether the prosecutor is going to try to find holes in what he said during the examination by Trump's attorneys. And so there's not going to be much there. I'm more concerned about whether they're going to allow this Federal Election Commission expert be on the stand, because keep in mind, there's no crime here. The whole purpose of this charge is that this hush money payment influenced a federal campaign, but the prosecution never had any evidence of how that was violation of the law. And that's the whole case. And there is no violation of the election law. Trump could give as much money as he wants for his own campaign under election laws. He could expend as much money, whether it's a non-disclosure agreement or whatever. So there's no there. And so I think that it's going to come down to what the jury instructions are to the jury early next week when they return to trial.
Okay, and yeah, they'll have a lot to think about. Now, Trump's lawyers asked Judge Merchan to dismiss the case yesterday. They argued that star witness Michael Cohen isn't credible. What comes next with that?
Well, the judge, of course, denied the motion to dismiss the charges. And so that'd be another argument to make on appeal, along with dozens of other arguments, that the judge should have been disqualified and recused because of his bias, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not surprised the judge denied that, but it was basically saying, look, this witness was so incredible that the chief star witness of the prosecution should not even be allowed to go on the stand when the prosecution knows he actually committed larceny. So not much is going to happen there. But I think at the end of this trial, the defense will, move for a directed verdict. They're obviously presenting their evidence, but I'm still concerned whether the judge is going to allow this FEC expert to be on the stand, because that's the whole case. Was there a violation of the election laws? Answer, no.
All right, Paul Kamen, our lead counsel at the National Legal and Policy Center. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
President Biden says the International Criminal Court's bid to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is outrageous. This after the ICC prosecutor requested arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his defense chief, and 3 Hamas leaders over alleged war crimes. Biden yesterday called the war in Gaza heartbreaking, but said what's happening is not genocide. He said it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to protect civilians. Secretary of State Antony Blinken rejected any comparison between Hamas and Israel. He says Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization, still holding dozens of innocent people hostage, including Americans. Blinken says the move could jeopardize negotiations on hostage and ceasefire deal. Blinken and the State Department say the ICC lacks jurisdiction to bring charges related to the war in the Gaza Strip. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the bid and lawmakers' reactions.
Today,
ICC prosecutor Karim Khan asked the court on Monday to let him bring charges against Hamas leaders for killings and kidnappings on October 7th, and for accusations of sexual violence and torture in the 7 months since. Khan also asked the court to approve charges against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and his defense minister Yoav Gallant, accusing them of allowing strikes on civilians and using starvation as a war tactic.
What's happening is not genocide. We reject that.
President Biden reacted, calling the ICC's efforts outrageous.
Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection.
Biden reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel's security as ironclad. Senate Leader Chuck Schumer said the ICC seeking arrest warrants for Israeli leaders alongside Hamas terrorists is reprehensible, but not surprising.
Because for decades and decades, the ICC has shown it harbors deep biases against Israel.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says the ICC has only discredited itself further as a rogue kangaroo court.
Utterly untethered to morality or justice.
my question to you.
Independent Senator Bernie Sanders said he supports the ICC move, calling it imperative. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says the ICC decision is a travesty of justice and a disgrace. He called it a moral outrage of historic proportions that sets a dangerous precedent.
That undermines every democracy's right to defend itself against terror organizations and aggressors.
House Speaker Mike Johnson condemned the ICC decision as baseless and illegitimate. He says the House is weighing options, including sanctions to punish ICC leadership if they proceed. Johnson says the court cannot be allowed to undermine the authority of democratic nations that maintain the rule of law. He called for global condemnation. Representatives Chip Roy and Elise Stefanik already have a bill prepared that would sanction ICC members if they move ahead. The bill would revoke travel visas of any ICC member involved in prosecuting U.S. or allied officials and troops. A panel of pretrial ICC judges will decide if evidence supports issuing warrants. The court usually takes 2 months to decide. Israel is not a member of the court, and the ICC has no way to enforce its rulings. Arrest warrants could make it difficult to travel abroad, because it would call on the ICC's 124 member countries to detain the accused. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And staying in the Middle East, U.S. Central Command says over 600 tons of humanitarian aid has been delivered to a temporary pier in Gaza so far. Aid deliveries began arriving at the U.S.-built pier last week. The UN says a World Food Program warehouse received 10 truckloads of food on Friday. The UN says it didn't receive any aid from the pier on Sunday or yesterday. Centcom says the UK, UAE, and European Union are helping donate aid. And the Iran-backed Houthis claim to have shot down a U.S. drone over Yemen. The group says they used a locally made missile to shoot down the MQ-9 Reaper drone. The claim follows their recent announcement of shooting down another U.S. drone also over Yemen. The U.S. military has yet to respond. Since 2014, the U.S. military has lost at least 5 drones to the Houthis. Now the group continues to attack shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. Coming up, former President Trump overtakes President Biden for the first time in fundraising, and the Kennedy campaign takes in some major cash. What that means, and a look at some key swing states. And cyber attacks against water utilities are on the rise nationwide. The Environmental Protection Agency is urging immediate action. That and more after the break.
Tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
Через війни та конфлікти ми мусимо залишати наші домівки і всі наші речі. Ми навіть не маємо їжі. Тому нам потрібна ваша допомога.
Millions of children are fighting to survive due to inequality, conflict, poverty, and the climate crisis. Save the Children is working alongside communities to provide a better life for children. And there's a way you can help. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We urgently need 1,000 new monthly donors in the next 30 days to help the children we support around the world. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection, plus so much more that a child needs, by calling right now and giving just $10 a month.
Ви можете допомогти голодуючим родинам вижити.
All we need are 1,000 monthly donors in the next 30 days. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Thanks to generous government grants, every dollar you give can have up to 10 times the impact. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Toto kote duniani
потребують вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to hungerstopsnow.org to help save lives today.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. But my favorite part of our new hose build, the oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot Pocket Hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. This is an exclusive release of our newest pocket hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-960-8919. That's 1-800-960-8919 or visit copperbullet.hose.com. Order now.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Welcome back. Hunter Biden is asking a federal court to delay his felony gun trial. He cites constitutional issues related to drug use, First Amendment rights, and a scheduling conflict with his California tax case. His request, filed on Monday, asks for a rehearing before the full panel of 14 judges in the U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals. A 3-judge panel previously rejected his bid on May 9th. Biden argues that 3 new developments have occurred since that rejection. His legal team says there is no urgency for a June 3rd trial. His attorneys note he has been sober for 5 years and has not possessed a gun since 2018. They claim the indictment and tax charges are politically motivated. Now to the presidential election. Former President Trump overtakes President Biden for the first time in fundraising. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and on a couple of big donations to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign.
Former President Trump reported taking in over $75 million in April. The haul was boosted by a record-setting $50.5 million raised during an event with donors early in the month in Palm Beach, Florida. President Biden's campaign raised a bit over $50 million in April. Biden's campaign continues to have a considerably larger war chest. It had $84 million in the bank at the end of April. The Trump campaign reported having $49 million. A large war chest has allowed Biden's campaign to undertake major advertising campaigns in battleground states. The election could hinge on just a few key states. The focus is on 7 swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, with a total of 93 electoral votes at stake. Biden won them all except for North Carolina in 2020, but recent polls show Trump leading in several of the crucial states this time around. Trump has his biggest polling lead in Nevada, where he is +7, and Georgia, where he is +6, according to The Hill. The New York Times poll gives him even stronger leads in the 2 states of 12% in Nevada and 10% in Georgia. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are the closest, where polls show Trump up by 1.7% and 1%, according to The Hill. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could play a major role in the election. Kennedy's campaign collected multi-million-dollar checks from both his running mate and a major supporter of former President Donald Trump in April. Kennedy's running mate Nicole Shanahan sent Team Kennedy $8 million on April 1st. The gift followed up on a $2 million contribution Shanahan sent after Kennedy announced her as his running mate. American Values 2024, a fund backing Kennedy's run, also collected its second $5 million check from Timothy Mellon in April. With that donation, Mellon's financial support for Kennedy in 2024 rose to $10 million. The heir to the Mellon family fortune is also a major backer of President Trump. In January, he sent $5 million to the super PAC Make America Great Again. Kennedy has access to more than $31 million in cash on hand as of the end of April, according to monthly disclosure statements. The Kennedy campaign says the cash infusion gives them all the money they need to get on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Kennedy would draw about 13% of national votes in a 3-way matchup with Biden and Trump, a recent Reuters Ipsos poll shows. It's unclear whether he would draw more from Democrats or Republicans. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg says he plans to step down. The move comes after a months-long scandal over sexual harassment and other misconduct at the top bank regulator. Gruenberg's 5-year term ends in 2028. He says he will step down once a successor is confirmed. The pending departure of the Democrat and Wall Street critic comes at a critical time for the agency. It has only been a year since 3 major banks failed, and many lenders continue to struggle due to high interest rates. Gruenberg had cluing to his job since November, when a Wall Street Journal reporter exposed widespread misconduct at the FDIC. The newspaper report was confirmed by an external review this month. Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown called for Gruenberg to be replaced yesterday. That was a key development that piled pressure on the FDIC chair. And scores of graduating students staged a walkout from Yale University's commencement exercise yesterday. They were protesting Yale's financial ties to weapons makers and its response to anti-Israel demonstrations on the Ivy League campus. At least 150 students seated near the front of the audience stood up together, turned their backs to the stage, and paraded out of the ceremony. Many of the protesters carried small banners with slogans like "Books, Not Bombs" and "Divest from War." Some wore red-colored latex gloves symbolizing bloodied hands. Others' signs read "Drop the charges" and "Protect free speech" in reference to 45 people arrested in a police crackdown last month at demonstrations. No mention of the protest was made from the stage. The Environmental Protection Agency says cyber attacks against water utilities are becoming more frequent and more severe. The agency issued an enforcement alert yesterday urging water systems to take immediate action to protect the nation's drinking water. The EPA said 70% of the utilities inspected over the last year were not up to standard to guard against security breaches. The agency said China, Russia, and Iran are all actively seeking the capability to disable U.S. critical infrastructure, including water and wastewater. The EPA and the White House warned water is an attractive target. It's a lifeline that often lacks the resources and technical capacity to adopt rigorous security practices. The EPA said it would train personnel at water facilities to address cybersecurity at no cost. And Senate Democrats are bringing the border security bill back to the floor for a second vote after it failed earlier this year. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on this story.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he's bringing back the bipartisan border security bill after the first vote attempted on February failed. This time, the bill will be presented as a standalone legislation. According to Democrats, the border crisis is a result of Republican inaction. Here's Democratic Senator Chris Murphy, a co-author of the bipartisan border security bill, accusing Republicans of politicizing the border crisis.
Senator McConnell said it out loud. Senator Lankford said it out loud. The reason that this bill was defeated 98 days ago is because Donald Trump told Republicans that it's better for Republicans to keep this issue alive and to not change the law to secure the country.
Making the announcement on Saturday, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer acknowledged that the bill will not have the full support of Democrats. And in a separate tweet on Monday, Senator Schumer also accused the former president of blocking the strongest border security bill in a generation. Senator James Lankford, the Republican from Oklahoma and a co-author of bipartisan border security bill, chastised Democrats for the lack of border security progress and asked what will be Congress's next move.
I hope not just do political messaging. I hope not just saying we'll bring up this bill to fail that we all know is going to fail. I hope it's actually sit down together and say, let's do the work to actually resolve this issue. That is what people sent us to do.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and House Republican leadership released a joint statement on Monday accusing Senator Chuck Schumer of trying to give his vulnerable members cover by bringing a vote on a bill which has already failed. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has already said that if the bill passes the Senate, it would be dead on arrival. House Republican leadership has also stressed that they've already passed H.R. 2 and the Laken-Riley Act, two immigration and border security related bills that Senator Chuck Schumer has refused to bring to the Senate floor for debate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Biden is asking Republican leaders in the House and Senate to support the bill on border security. Coming up, evacuations begin in New Caledonia. Australia and New Zealand are sending planes to evacuate citizens from the violence-ridden French territory in the South Pacific. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Western allies are taking too long to make decisions on military support. More on his interview with Reuters when we return.
The highest art is beautiful. Experience art with 5,000 years of history. Inspired by the divine. Experience Shen-Yun.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms, but then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Freedom is not free, and neither is the truth. In order to bring you the facts, our reporters are out there on the front lines getting the true story. Some of them served 10 years of prison in China. We've been censored on social media. Our Hong Kong printing offices were set on fire, and we've been repeatedly attacked by the Chinese Communist Party. But no matter what, we believe that you deserve the truth, and so we'll continue to bring the truth to light. Head on over to getepoch.com and try honest journalism that is based in truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Thanks for staying with us. French President Emmanuel Macron is set to visit New Caledonia following a week of deadly riots in the French territory. That's as Australia and New Zealand began evacuations. Here's more.
Australia and New Zealand sent planes to New Caledonia on Tuesday to evacuate nationals after a week of deadly riots. The riot was sparked by electoral changes from the French government. France's High Commission in New Caledonia announced on Tuesday that the airport remains closed for commercial flights and the military will protect public buildings. Officials says thousands are stranded due to cancelled flights following last week's unrest there. Streets in New Caledonia's capital Noumea are lined with charred vehicles and debris, with at least 6 people killed. Eyewitness videos showed burnt-out cars next to gutted car showrooms. Now the roads are being cleared with bulldozers removing burnt-out cars and rubble. The protests erupted last week among the indigenous Kanak people over a French amendment changing election participation rules, potentially diluting their vote. Vero Ulue is part of a community group offering support to fellow Kanaks during the crisis.
The crisis here is a big fail. Because the French government doesn't know how to control people here. They send more than 2,000 military to control, but it's a fail. It's Macron, President Macron, and the government and the ministers, all the ministers, they bring back the war here in New Caledonia, the civil war here. Yes, and I can confirm we are back during the last civil war in 84 and 88.
Pro-independence parties are demanding withdrawal of the electoral reform before resuming talks, while France insists on restoring order first.
A Russian physicist was convicted of treason today and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. That's according to a Reuters report at the court. 77-year-old Anatoly Maslov is one of a string of eminent Russian scientists who have been charged with treason in recent years. His work was relevant to the development of hypersonic missiles, cutting-edge weapons capable of traveling at up to 10 times the speed of sound to punch through air defense systems. Maslov was convicted by a St. Petersburg court following a trial that was closed to the media. He maintains his innocence. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to request $64 billion for the State Department this week. He'll make the request through the department's fiscal year 2025 budget to the Senate today. Tomorrow, he's expected to request the same from the House. This comes amid continuously escalating tensions in the Middle East and as the Biden administration plans to withhold certain weapons from Israel. Let's tune in to that Senate hearing now.
Needs for a healthy and thriving American diplomatic presence around the world. I want to thank Senator Risch for working with me on this year's State Department authorization bill. This will be our fourth authorization bill in 4 years after a long hiatus. I was glad that we had an opportunity to discuss that during last week's hearing with Secretary Burma. We need to incentivize diversity initiatives and modernize the training and professional developments for our diplomats to deal with the 21st century challenges. This bill really underscores the importance we put on supporting the work of our State Department. Secretary Blinken, I want to thank you personally for all you've done and the hard work you've done to promote the strength of our diplomacy in the State Department and its mission around the world. I know that you've traveled many miles and met with many world leaders, especially in the context of Putin's war in Ukraine and the wake of Hamas's attack in Israel. I'd like to hear you articulate how this administration plans to confront the challenges we face today. Because despite everything that's happening, and the best efforts of our colleagues on the Appropriations Committee, our foreign aid budgets have been shrinking. What effect do you think this has had on your ability to advance American priorities, defend American interests, and project American values? What kind of trade-offs have you had to make as the State Department because of the shrinking budgets? That is the purpose of this hearing, to discuss the President's FY25 budget, and I look forward to that discussion. And with that, let me first recognize our very distinguished ranking member, Senator Risch.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for those remarks. Let me say that it appears we're at the start of a new era in global affairs, one marked by growing instability, increasing competition, and fraying economic relationships. This is a time for U.S. leadership and resolve. The President's annual budget, which is what we're talking about here today, shows his priorities, and there are a couple of areas in his budget request where we agree. But the request lacks seriousness, I believe, and shows an inability to make tough choices. First, the budget's biggest focus is on climate change. That focus doesn't help Ukraine or Israel or help our allies compete against China. In fact, by rejecting low-carbon energy options like natural gas and pushing a green-only approach, the administration is doing more to enable China than outcompete it. If the administration wants to outcompete China, then it should focus on China's growing advantages in ports, airports, digital technologies, and other critical sectors, rather than advancing ideological pet projects. Indeed, this proposed budget does contain a poison pill, which I suspect you probably already know, Secretary Blinken, in the form of a, quote, green climate fund, which proposes to transfer U.S. taxpayer money to China through the UN, about $1 billion of it. The budget's so-called outcompete China initiatives might enjoy my support if the department actually worked with this committee, but the request of the programs to be mandatory spending is inappropriate. Mandatory programs are not subject to congressional oversight, and that is why these requests have failed in the last 3 years. In fact, I would argue the department has perfected the art of hiding information from Congress, which you and I talked about yesterday to some degree. In Israel, Ukraine, and China, in Congo, it is impossible to get honest and clear information from the department. Instead, the president prioritizes funds for non-transparent initiatives like the Partnership for Global Infrastructure, which focuses on climate and gender infrastructure. And the department's funds are steered not by the department, but by the White House, which is a
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below, support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
This is an important message from USA Family Protection. You may now be eligible for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day.
Mom, it's so great to see you.
Oh, you too, son. And I have to tell you, I've been thinking about the future, and it's really important to me that I don't leave you and your sister with my debts, especially the cost of my funeral and other final expenses, which can be more than $9,000.
Yeah, that would be really hard on us.
Well, I called USA Family Protection, and with one phone call, I was eligible for $50,000 for my funeral and final expenses.
But what about your health issues? Don't they require a medical exam?
That's the best part. There's no medical exam, just a few quick questions, and I was able to get coverage right over the phone. Plus, my rates can never be increased, my benefits can never be decreased, and my coverage can never be canceled.
That's really great, Mom. But can you afford it?
Yes, rates start at less than $1 a day, and when the time comes, payout to you and your sister happens in as little as a few days. I am so happy to know you two are taken care of.
Thanks, Mom. Me too.
Don't leave your loved ones with your debt. Call USA Family Protection at 800-760-6571 and get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, just a few health questions, and you can be approved right over the phone. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. Call 800-760-6571. There's no hidden fees and no waiting periods to get covered. Call 800-760-6571. There's no obligation. Call 800-760-6571.
I'm Iris Tao at the White House, and we are NTD.
Next, the State Department is requesting $64 billion for its fiscal year 2025 budget. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and the Appropriations Subcommittee. He'll testify before the House tomorrow. This comes as the Biden administration plans to withhold certain weapons from Israel, a move hotly contested by some Republicans. Let's tune back into that Senate hearing now.
2021. Over 3 decades and 3 presidential administrations, Mr. Blinken has helped shape U.S. foreign policy to ensure it protects U.S. interests and delivers results for the American people. He served as Deputy Secretary of State for President Obama from 2015 to 2017, and before that as President Obama's Principal Deputy National Security Advisor. In that role, Mr. Blinken chaired the Interagency Deputies Committee, the main forum for hammering out the administration's foreign policy. During the first term of the Obama administration, Mr. Blinken was National Security Advisor to then Vice President Joe Biden. But perhaps the most impressive part of his background, by far, is the fact that he served a 6-year stint as the Democratic Staff Director to the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Then Senator Biden was chair of that committee from 2001 to 2003, and again from 2007 to 2009. 2007 was my first year in the United States Senate, and I was appointed to this committee, in which then Staff Director Blinken was extremely helpful to this freshman member of the United States Senate, and I'm forever grateful for his help during those transition years. Secretary Blinken, your entire statement will be made part of our record without objection. You may proceed as you wish, and we look forward to a robust discussion.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. To you, Ranking Member Risch, all the members of the committee, it's always good to be back before this committee. And as you said, I was on the other side of the dais, behind where you are, for 6 years. So I always appreciate the opportunity to be back here among colleagues. And thank you for the opportunity to testify today. More importantly, thank you for the partnership that I think we've been able to manifest together to advance American leadership in the world that is so essential for delivering on the priorities that matter to the people we represent. The need for U.S. global leadership and for cooperation with allies and partners has never been greater. The People's Republic of China is pursuing military...
was 6 years old when Israelis killed her. Him Ragnar was 6 years old. Lincoln, you will be remembered as the butcher of Gaza. You will be remembered for murdering innocent Palestinians.
The person, will the officer please remove the person who's making these comments? If anyone who's speaking, please be removed. Mr. Secretary, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I was saying, the People's Republic of China...
He is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands. The blood of 40,000 Palestinians is on his hands. He is a war criminal. He is a war criminal. Lincoln is a war criminal. The blood of 40,000 people is on his hands.
Mr. Secretary, you may continue.
The People's Republic of China is pursuing military, economic, and geopolitical preeminence, challenging our vision for a free, open, secure, and prosperous international order. Russia is committing aggression, not only against Ukraine, but against the principles at the heart of the United Nations Charter: sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence, that are the building blocks for global peace and security. In the Middle East, we're standing with Israel in its efforts to ensure that what happened on October 7th never happens again, as we do everything we can to bring an end to the terrible human suffering in Gaza and prevent the conflict from spreading. U.S. leadership is needed to address humanitarian crises elsewhere around the world, including in Sudan and Haiti, where millions have been displaced and many killed, and to address global issues that no country can solve alone, including food security, a changing climate, transnational corruption, the fentanyl crisis. But with the support of Congress, we can and we are approaching these challenges from a position of strength. Because of the actions we've taken, the United States is stronger economically, diplomatically, and militarily than we were 3 years ago. We've made historic investments at home in our own competitiveness, innovation, infrastructure. We've renewed our alliances. We've built new ones. We've secured unprecedented alignment with key partners in Europe, Asia, and beyond. We've delivered essential American aid to Ukraine, and we've rallied the international community to share the burden with us. For every dollar that we've sent in economic and development assistance, others collectively have invested 3 more. Now, many doubted whether bipartisan support for Ukraine and other urgent national security priorities could endure. Last month, Congress demonstrated to the world that we will not pull back when you pass President Biden's supplemental funding bill by an overwhelming margin. Our investment abroad does not come at the expense of our strength at home. Far from it. Most of the supplemental is being spent here in the United States, building up our defense industrial base, creating and supporting thousands of American jobs. We need to keep up this momentum. That requires a State Department budget that we fully resource in order to meet the challenges of our time. The President's FY25 budget...
Genocide in Gaza. There have been 7 mass
You may continue.
Thank you. The President's FY25 budget, requesting $58.8 billion for the State Department and USAID, does this in two key ways. First, it funds the essential missions of our department and USAID. The budget will ensure that the United States continues to be the partner of choice that countries turn to when they need to solve big problems. In an era of renewed great power competition, we must present the strongest possible offer, one that's relevant and responsive to countries' needs, and that advances our security and economic interests. That's why we're requesting $2 billion for a new fund to build high-quality, sustainable infrastructure around the world. Crucially, investments like these create jobs for Americans. They expand markets for our businesses. We're requesting resources for the World Bank. With $1 billion in U.S. funding, we can unlock another $36 billion in development fund capacity to direct to the top priorities of emerging economies. That is an enormous return on our investment and essential for competing with China around the world. The budget also includes $1.7 billion for international organizations, including the United Nations, APEC, the Inter-American Development Bank, to help shape them in ways that reflect our interests and our values. We're asking for $500 million to give more people around the world access to secure internet and digital technologies. Doing so will support our economy through the export of our technology products, and it will help ensure that we and our fellow democracies remain the leaders and standard setters in key technologies like artificial intelligence. Our budget also includes funding to address global issues that affect the lives, the livelihoods of the American people, as well as people around the world, especially the synthetic drug crisis. It also funds our response to irregular migration, global food insecurity, public health, climate, and energy security. We're also asking Congress to fully fund the State Department's educational and cultural exchanges. These are one of the best, most cost-effective tools we have for advancing our values and our interests around the world. They support students, researchers, young professionals from our communities who study and work abroad. To outcompete our strategic rivals, we also need to invest in the foundations of our strength abroad, our diplomatic corps, and that's the second pillar of our budget. Our budget makes a strong investment in expanding our overseas presence, opening posts in the Pacific Islands, the Eastern Caribbean. It will also continue our modernization of our diplomacy. We're organizing the department in new ways to meet these new challenges, working to attract and retain the best talent needed to take them on, investing in our people in Washington and in our posts overseas, with training, with technology, promoting more agility, more innovation, more efficiency in our processes. Last year's enacted budget level represented a 5% cut from the year before. That challenges our efforts to deliver results that Congress and the American people want to see. So I urge you to support this budget, which helps us address the most pressing foreign policy priorities in the coming year and lays the foundation for strong leadership in the years ahead. In conclusion, I'd like to thank this committee for your recent confirmations of ambassadors and other senior officials. Any undue delays in such confirmations undermine our national security and weaken our ability to deliver for the American people. I'm grateful for the partnership of this committee and for your time. Look forward to answering any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I regret.
For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Stay with us and we'll bring you more news in the next 2 hours.
I'm Ilka. I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call 800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now. 800-494-1562.
Welcome to NTD News Today. Here are today's top stories. A flight from London hits severe turbulence, killing one passenger and injuring 30 more. What happened, and footage of the aftermath. Former President Trump's defense team rests their case in the so-called hush money trial. Find out what will happen next in the trial now that we know Trump won't testify. A new movie that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival is creating controversy. Why former President Trump's campaign says they'll sue the filmmakers. Russia's foreign minister says U.S. sanctions are putting people's lives at risk. Why he's making the allegation after a deadly helicopter crash in Iran. Amid rising tensions around the world, how much funding will the U.S. allocate to the State Department? Secretary of State Antony Blinken is making his request to lawmakers today. Retaliation from Beijing, the Chinese Communist regime has imposed sanctions against former U.S. lawmaker and top China hawk Mike Gallagher. Details on the new measures.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
One person is dead and 30 more are injured after a flight from London to Singapore hit turbulence today. The flight had to make an emergency landing in Bangkok, Thailand. About 210 passengers and 18 crew members were on board. Eyewitness footage showed damaged overhead cabins and injured passengers being carried out by stretchers after the flight landed. Videos posted on the Line messaging platform showed ambulances streaming toward the scene. 18 people are now hospitalized and another 12 were treated for their injuries. Tracking data captured by Flight Radar 24 shows the plane tilting upward and returned to its cruising altitude over the space of a minute. Passengers said a dramatic drop led to those not wearing seatbelts hitting the ceiling. The aircraft sent a squawk code at that time, an international emergency signal. Singapore Airlines offered its condolences to the family of the deceased passenger. And here's the update on former President Trump's so-called hush money trial in New York. Trump's team rested their case this morning, which Trump hinted at outside of the courthouse.
And I'm fighting for 300 million people. I mean, I have no choice. It's not that I like doing this, sitting in an icebox all day for 7, 8, 9 hours. And it's a very cold room, I will tell you that. But I'm doing this because our country needs it. Our Constitution's under threat. Our country needs it. So here I am. I will be doing something in the morning and then probably coming back in the afternoon. And we'll be resting pretty quickly. Resting meaning resting the case. I won't be resting. I don't rest. I'd like to rest sometimes, but I don't get to rest.
Trump's team isn't calling any more witnesses, and both sides will present closing arguments next week. The judge ordered the jury to return for summations next Tuesday. They will be adjourned until then. The last witness to testify was Robert Costello, who served as an advisor to the prosecutor's star witness, Michael Cohen. Prosecutors had a brief cross-examination of Costello this morning. Many Trump allies showed up in court today to support Trump, like we've seen over the past few days, including his oldest son, Donald Trump Jr., Senator Eric Schmidt, and 6 GOP House members. Here to discuss former President Trump's trial in New York is Jeremy Rosenthal. He's a trial attorney and founding partner of Rosenthal, Calabas, and Tarian. Good to have you, Jeremy. Trump's team has just rested their case without any more witnesses. In particular, this means that Trump won't be testifying. What's next for this trial?
Next thing is going to be what's called a jury charge conference and the jury charge. So the jurors are ordered to be back next Tuesday for summations. But between now and then, there's going to be a lot of legal work that's done behind the scenes, and that's creating what's called the jury charge. That's the formal document, anywhere between 1 and 35 pages, maybe even more, that the jury has to read through, right? Because the jurors aren't lawyers. So the judge decides the law in the case, and he's giving the law in the form of the jury charge to the jury. So they have to read it. And the law is very, very particular. The law is very, very deliberate in how it needs to be given to the jury. And ultimately, the jury is given a singular question on each count, guilty or not guilty. But crafting that very important document is the next line of business for the court in this case.
All right. And so now we know that Trump won't be testifying. Would a Trump testimony have helped his case at all?
Well, we'll find out, won't we, when the jury comes back. But I don't know that it would have here. And I'm fairly certain that most legal analysts, including his own lawyers, would tell him just to stay off the stand, particularly Robert Costello. I don't know how well that testimony went over with the jury. And I don't know if Donald Trump was going to be able to offer any kind of alternate explanation. Under our laws, under the Fifth Amendment, you don't have to do that, right? It's important that the prosecution focus on the evidence in the case and that they prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. The Fifth Amendment in the United States is extremely important, and it's what separates us, if you will, from third world countries, from places like Venezuela or North Korea, where if you get accused, your story better make sense. And we're just going to put you under a light, and we're going to decide the case based on your facial expressions. By focusing on the prosecution's case in America, we focus on the evidence. And in this instance, I think the defense either felt strongly enough that the prosecution didn't make their case, or in the alternative, that Mr. Trump was just going to get up there and potentially hurt himself. One of the things that you have to factor in there, too, is that Donald Trump is used to working a crowd. He's used to working a room. He's used to giving speeches to the media. But none of those things probably really work in front of a jury. The jury is going to be a lot more interested on the intricate things. And the last thing Trump wants to do is get tripped up on a question he either doesn't understand, or if he says something that's inconsistent, that could undermine all the hard work that his lawyers have done to this point.
Now, let's come to the star witness, Michael Cohen. He testified on Monday that he stole tens of thousands of dollars from the Trump Organization. How does that affect this case?
prosecution really didn't need that. The prosecution did their very best they spent weeks in this case inoculating Michael Cohen. They spent weeks witness through witness through witness through witness corroborating his story. Their whole goal in this case was that when Cohen takes the stand, you're just going to believe the guy because you have to believe him because everything adds up and makes sense. And then they knew there was some luggage with the guy, right? And when they talked to him in the first place, they did what you call throwing the skunk on the table in criminal law, or kissing the ugly baby, right? That is, Michael Cohen, you've been convicted of perjury. Explain that to the jury. Michael Cohen, you've been convicted of tax fraud. Explain that to the jury. They didn't see this theft coming, and that was a hole in the side of their ship that they certainly didn't see coming, and they certainly didn't need. The major question that I have is, was it too little, too late? Because that type of thing, you might consider giving it to the jury in opening statement to where they can formulate their opinion about that. But again, we'll see what the jury does next week.
Yeah, and I know pundits and news outlets across the board on both sides of the aisle were really shocked with that testimony given. With Michael Cohen's testimony done, what are your biggest takeaways from his multiple days on the stand?
That last moment, I think, is probably what I think most folks are going to take away from, right? I mean, you and I are not on the jury, but we're Americans and we're voters. And there's certain layers to this case, right? I mean, there's the X's and O's, which people like me nerd out to, and, oh, this piece of evidence means this and this piece of evidence means that. Then there's the trial advocacy part of it, the emotions, if you will. Well, is it too little, too late? Is the jury going to really, what are they going to think about this? What are they going to feel about this? I mean, did they start liking Michael Cohen after 5 and 6 days? And then when you start hitting him, are you the bad guy for bringing up these things? But then on the third level, and again, I don't do politics, right? I'm a lawyer, so I try to stay in my lane. But when Michael Cohen gets up there and admits to committing theft, that gives a lot of people room to sort of question any outcome by this jury. If Donald Trump is convicted, does a jury come back, or do the American people come back and say, well, we don't agree with that because this guy was so bad?
And I just want to kind of jog your memory, based on what you remember about the jury selection process that started all of this. How do you think everything we've seen in the past several weeks of this trial will play out ultimately?
I think any trial lawyer who knows what they're doing is going to tell you, in terms of jury selection, that you might not be able to win a case in jury selection, but you can darn sure lose a case in jury selection. And that's by putting people on that panel that were never going to agree with you anyway, right? If the trial is about how great the Dallas Cowboys are and we get a bunch of Packers fans on there, we're just never going to win the thing, right? And then opening statement. I've seen studies that suggest that 80% of people make up their mind during opening statement. So you have to approach this case as if the last 2 or 3 weeks are these battles that you're fighting, that do they matter or do they not matter? Because again, you're trying to change opinions in this case as early as you can, get the jurors on your side. And really what you're trying to do is give your people ammunition, right? You're trying to give those jurors who are with you things that they can use in the jury room to convince other jurors with. We make a big deal of it because it's all we see in a given day, right? I mean, yesterday was an extremely dramatic day in court, and we can kick it back and forth. But we don't know if any of the jurors really, if they had made up their mind 2 and 3 weeks ago. We don't know that.
All right, Jeremy Rosenthal, thank you for shedding some light on that. Very useful.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Former President Trump's campaign team says they'll file a lawsuit against the new movie. It premiered yesterday at the Cannes Film Festival in France. The movie, titled The Apprentice, is about Trump in New York City in the 1980s. In the movie, Trump learns about the ruthlessness of New York City in politics and business. It is labeled as being inspired by true events. The film notably contains a scene showing Trump raping his wife, Ivana Trump, in the 1990s. Ivana once stated that Trump had raped her. She later said she didn't mean it literally, but rather that she had felt violated. Trump's team says the movie is pure fiction, which uses lies that have been long debunked. Iranian-born filmmaker Ali Abbasi directed the movie after yesterday's premiere. He addressed the audience saying, "There's no nice way to deal with the rising wave of fascism." He also said he aims to release the film in September, so the presidential election will boost release numbers. And Hunter Biden is asking a federal court to delay his felony gun trial. He cites constitutional issues related to drug use, First Amendment rights, and a scheduling conflict with his California tax case. His request, filed on Monday, asks for a rehearing before the full panel of 14 judges in the U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals. A 3-judge panel previously rejected his bid on May 9th. Biden argues that 3 new developments have occurred since that rejection. His legal team says there is no urgency for a June 3rd trial. His attorneys note he has been sober for 5 years and has not possessed a gun since 2018. They claim the indictment and tax charges are politically motivated. Now to the presidential election. Former President Trump overtakes President Biden for the first time in fundraising. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and on a couple of big donations to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign.
Former President Trump reported taking in over $75 million in April. The haul was boosted by a record-setting $50.5 million raised during an event with donors early in the month in Palm Beach, Florida. President Biden's campaign raised a bit over $50 million in April. Biden's campaign continues to have a considerably larger war chest. It had $84 million in the bank at the end of April. The Trump campaign reported having $49 million. A large war chest has allowed Biden's campaign to undertake major advertising campaigns in battleground states. The election could hinge on just a few key states. The focus is on 7 swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, with a total of 93 electoral votes at stake. Biden won them all except for North Carolina in 2020, but recent polls show Trump leading in several of the crucial states this time around. Trump has his biggest polling lead in Nevada, where he is +7, and Georgia, where he is +6, according to The Hill. The New York Times poll gives him even stronger leads in the 2 states of 12% in Nevada and 10% in Georgia. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are the closest, where polls show Trump up by 1.7% and 1%, according to The Hill. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could play a major role in the election. Kennedy's campaign collected multi-million-dollar checks from both his running mate and a major supporter of former President Donald Trump in April. Kennedy's running mate Nicole Shanahan sent Team Kennedy $8 million on April 1st. The gift followed up on a $2 million contribution Shanahan sent after Kennedy announced her as his running mate. American Values 2024, a fund backing Kennedy's run, also collected its second $5 million check from Timothy Mellon in April. With that donation, Mellon's financial support for Kennedy in 2024 rose to $10 million. The heir to the Mellon family fortune is also a major backer of President Trump. In January, he sent $5 million to the super PAC Make America Great Again. Kennedy has access to more than $31 million in cash on hand as of the end of April, according to monthly disclosure statements. The Kennedy campaign says the cash infusion gives them all the money they need to get on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Kennedy would draw about 13% of national votes in a 3-way matchup with Biden and Trump, a recent Reuters Ipsos poll shows. It's unclear whether he would draw more from Democrats or Republicans. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, police break up the anti-Israel encampment at the University of Michigan. See footage from on the ground. And how is the State Department planning to spend American tax dollars next year? We'll take you to a Senate hearing where the Secretary is outlining his $64 billion plan after the break.
Water, nature's ultimate cleaner. We drink it, we bathe in it. Think water, think steam, think clean. Now harness the power of water with the H2O X5 5-in-1 steam cleaning system.
I'm so impressed with the X5.
It's an all-in-one product. I can use it throughout my entire house.
It's cleaning, it's sanitizing, there's no chemicals in it. It's just steam.
This is unbelievable. There is no more odor.
You could spend over $500 to purchase the products that the X5 5-in-1 Miracle replaces. Order your H2O X5 steam cleaning system, a $500 value, for just 4 easy payments of $43. Order now and we'll upgrade your X5 package. We'll add a 6th mode with a dusting and polishing wand. Valued at over $30, this extra bonus attachment makes your H2O X5 the H2O X6. That means your 10-piece system becomes a 12-piece system at no extra cost to you. All for just 3 easy payments of $43. Call or click right now.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
Are you ready to help your family get prepared for the unexpected?
Everyone in? Here we go!
Ladybug and Cat Noir know how important it is to be ready. Because you never know when Hawkmoth is going to strike, or a disaster will hit.
Go, Rose!
And you don't need miraculous powers. Just put those planning skills you already have to good use. Know who to call, decide on a safe meeting location, and create an emergency preparedness kit. Make a plan that will help you and your family be ready when emergencies happen. Ready Kids can help.
I'm coming to save you!
Get started at ready.gov/kids.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Thanks for staying with us. Starting with the anti-Israel protests on college campuses. In Ann Arbor, Michigan, police moved in early this morning to clear the encampment at the University of Michigan. The encampment was set up in late April near the end of the school year. Video footage shows officers wearing helmets with face shields moving in before sunrise. Police used what appeared to be an irritant to spray people after the camp was cleared. Nearby buildings, including the libraries, were closed. The university president said in a statement that the encampment had become a threat to safety. Less than a week ago, protesters showed up at the home of a school official and placed fake body bags on her lawn. President Biden says the International Criminal Court's bid to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is outrageous. This after the ICC prosecutor requested arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his defense chief, and 3 Hamas leaders over alleged war crimes. Biden yesterday called the war in Gaza heartbreaking, but said what's happening is not genocide. He said it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to protect civilians. Secretary of State Antony Blinken rejected any comparison between Hamas and Israel. He says Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization still holding dozens of innocent people hostage, including Americans. Blinken says the move could jeopardize negotiations on a hostage and ceasefire deal. Blinken and the State Department says the ICC lacks jurisdiction to bring charges relating to the war in the Gaza Strip. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the bid and lawmakers' reactions.
Today, ICC prosecutor Karim Khan asked the court on Monday to let him bring charges against Hamas leaders for killings and kidnappings on October 7th, and for accusations of sexual violence and torture in the 7 months since. Khan also asked the court to approve charges against Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and his defense minister Yoav Gallant. accusing them of allowing strikes on civilians and using starvation as a war tactic.
What's happening is not genocide. We reject that.
President Biden reacted, calling the ICC's efforts outrageous.
Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. And it's clear Israel wants to do all it can to ensure civilian protection.
Biden reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel's security as ironclad. Senate Leader Chuck Schumer said the ICC seeking arrest warrants for Israeli leaders alongside Hamas terrorists is reprehensible, but not surprising.
Because for decades and decades, the ICC has shown it harbors deep biases against Israel.
Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says the ICC has only discredited itself further as a rogue kangaroo court.
Utterly untethered to morality or justice.
My question to you.
Independent Senator Bernie Sanders said he supports the ICC move, calling it imperative. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says the ICC decision is a travesty of justice and a disgrace. He called it a moral outrage of historic proportions that sets a dangerous precedent.
That undermines every democracy's right to defend itself against terror organizations and aggressors.
House Speaker Mike Johnson condemned the ICC decision as baseless and illegitimate. He says the House is weighing options, including sanctions to punish ICC leadership if they proceed. Johnson says the court cannot be allowed to undermine the authority of democratic nations that maintain the rule of law. He called for global condemnation. Representatives Chip Roy and Elise Stefanik already have a bill prepared that would sanction ICC members if they move ahead. The bill would revoke travel visas of any ICC member involved in prosecuting U.S. or allied officials and troops. A panel of pretrial ICC judges will decide if evidence supports issuing warrants. The court usually takes 2 months to decide. Israel is not a member of the court, and the ICC has no way to enforce its rulings. Arrest warrants could make it difficult to travel abroad, because it would call on the ICC's 124 member countries to detain the accused. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to request $64 billion for the State Department this week. He'll make the request for the department's fiscal year 2025 budget to the Senate today. Tomorrow, he's expected to request the same amount from the House. This comes amid continuously escalating tensions in the Middle East and as the Biden administration plans to withhold certain weapons from Israel. Let's tune into that Senate hearing now.
The results of this strategic development. Now, I've been offered the chance to review in camera what has been prepared. I've tried to schedule that, and that has not been responded to by the department. But does the State Department intend to submit to the law as signed by the President to actually put in place and to submit to Congress the strategy in a classified form?
Senator, first of all, I agree wholeheartedly with the short litany of items that you listed in terms of what China is doing to try to pursue its military, economic, diplomatic preeminence or dominance in the world. And across the board, we have worked in new and effective ways to deal with that, to push back against that. And I just say very quickly before coming to your question, two fundamental things have changed in our approach to China that allows us to approach it from a position of strength. One, what's happened here at home, the investments that we've made in ourselves with the leadership of Congress, particularly when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to the CHIPS and Science Act, when it comes to the Inflation Reduction Act. In each of these ways, we put ourselves in a position to make sure that we are leading when it comes to the industries of the future. And what I see around the world is people taking note of those investments and wanting to partner with us. Second, we have aligned in ways that we have not before with key partners in Europe, in Asia, and beyond in the approach to China. And you see that now in convergence of the approach, the tools that we're using, both individually and collectively, whether it's investment screening mechanisms, whether it's controls on outbound investment to make sure that it's not going to help industries in China that could come back and hurt us, export controls that we're doing in a much more coordinated way, working across the board to deal with some of the economic non-market practices that China engages in that unfairly penalize not only our workers and companies, but workers and companies around the world. I can go on down the list, but we see that convergence in very powerful ways. Now, on the strategy and advisory board, first, we applaud everything that you've done and your leadership on this for many years. We announced the public strategy back in the spring of 22, and you were very gracious in actually being there when I put that out. But yes, the NSC, I know, and this is what the White House has made available, the classified strategy for in-camera review. I'm going to make sure if there's some problem in scheduling that happens. And I'll also go back to them about what more we can do. I know we've provided classified briefings to members and to staff on the approach that's in the strategy. But let me come back to you on making sure that you can see and other members can see the full strategy in the classified setting.
Well, the law that was passed called not just for a classified setting, which is certainly appropriate, but also to submit to Congress in a public setting what the summary of those strategic moves would be. And as I went through that long list of Chinese steps, those are the kinds of things I'm looking for. To say, look, our strategy is invest and align and compete sounds great. That may be an objective, but the tactical steps of what we're going to do country by country, industry by industry, port by port, spyware by spyware, et cetera, that's the kind of detail that really creates a comprehensive strategy that can be effective. And I guess I'm concerned that as we go potentially from one administration to the next, whether that's in 1 year or in 5 years, that we have a strategy that lasts. Following the Second World War, George Kennan and others came together to develop a strategy that was very successful in confronting the Soviet Union. We're looking to do the same thing here, but we haven't seen anything of that nature yet. And in the law required that be submitted to Congress in a public setting, but also in a classified setting. And I would ask that you honor that commitment made in law and provide that information both to Congress and to those of us that would want to attend a classified setting.
Thank you, and I'll come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Senator Merkley.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. I applaud your and the President's efforts to condemn Hamas's invasion on October 7th, to secure a ceasefire, and to secure the release of hostages. President Biden has also recognized, however, that the campaign carried out by the Netanyahu government in Gaza has included what the President's called indiscriminate bombing, resulted in a massive number of civilian casualties. The NSM 20 report concluded, and I quote, "Given Israel's significant reliance on U.S.-made defense articles, it's reasonable to assess that Israel has used U.S.-provided weapons in instances inconsistent with international humanitarian law." Given this assessment, why did the State Department conclude that Israel's assurances that it was not using weapons in a manner inconsistent with international law are in fact credible and reliable?
Thank you, Senator. We've said two things from day one since October 7th. One, that Israel not only has the right, it has the obligation to defend itself and to try to make sure that October 7th never happens again. And the United States is committed to doing everything we can to support it in those efforts. We've also said that the way Israel does it matters, particularly with regard to civilian protection in Gaza and the provision of humanitarian assistance to Gazans who need it. And we have been working every single day since then, not only to provide Israel with what it needs, but also to do our best to help see that Palestinians get what they need in Gaza. And we see the horrific suffering of children, women, and men who've been caught in a crossfire of Hamas's making for 8 months now. And we are working every day to try to alleviate that. When it comes to the NSM and the use of our weapons, here's what the report said. It said exactly as you quoted. Given the totality of the damage that's been done, and given the fact that we are a major provider of weapons to Israel, it is reasonable to assess that in some instances, Israel has acted in ways that are not consistent with international humanitarian law. And indeed, we are investigating a number of instances, some of which are alluded to in the report, others that are not, to make those determinations. Israel itself is investigating hundreds of incidents to make its own determinations. And indeed, there are criminal investigations underway in Israel in this area. It's very difficult to make final determinations in the midst of a war when we do not have access on the ground, and when you have a almost totally unique battlefield where an enemy, a terrorist organization, Hamas, is hiding behind and underneath civilians in apartment buildings, in mosques, in schools, and firing at the Israeli forces. So we're determined to make every appropriate determination. We're determined that there be no double standard. We have processes at the State Department, including our conventional arms transfer policy, including our
thank you
deterrent
for your
process that we're
explanation.
engaged in.
I know that it's so complicated that you could go on for a while, but I think you've pointed out the challenge and the fact that assessments are ongoing. I do feel it's important that we approach these questions in NSM 20 with as much integrity as possible. On May 7th, President Biden announced his decision to pause the shipment of the 502,000 bombs. And the following day, he drew a red line stating that, quote, if Israel goes into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities. And you, Mr. Secretary, reinforced this point when you said, if Israel launches a major military operation into Rafah, then there are systems we're not going to be supporting and supplying for that operation. We are already seeing significant action in Rafah. About 1 million people have fled the city. Is the President going to stand by his red line?
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shin-Yun.
Hello. Today we are talking about Medicare Advantage plans, also known as Medicare Part C. If you have Original Medicare, you have Medicare Part A and Part B. Part A covers hospital stays, while Part B covers medical visits like seeing the doctor. A Medicare Part C plan covers everything in Parts A and B and could save you money or include additional benefits you may not be receiving with your current plan. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage for any reason, call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that could include additional benefits. All you have to do to find out if you could enroll in a plan that could save you money or include additional benefits is follow these steps. 1. Call the number on your screen. 2. Give your zip code to the licensed insurance agent. And 3. Find a plan best for you and your needs. Part C plans can change every year. Call now, even if you've called in the past, because you could be eligible for 2024 plans with additional benefits that may have previously been unavailable to you. So call today and find out the plan options available to you in your zip code. Just call 800-693-6549. You do not automatically get enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan that saves money or includes additional benefits, so you should call to find out what plans are available to you. Insurance companies offer different plans in different zip codes. Call today and find out what plans are available to you in your zip code. Call 800-693-6549. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage for any reason, call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Part C plan that could save you money and include additional benefits. All you have to do is follow these steps. 1. Call the number on your screen. 2. Give your zip code to the licensed insurance agent. And 3. Find a plan best for you and your needs. Remember, you do not automatically get a Part C plan. Call now for your free 2024 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Call 800-693-6549. 800-693-6549. 800-693-6549.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at Merkin Hall, Kaufman Music Center in New York from September 18th to 21st. The competition specially invites vocalists from the world-famous Shenyun Performing Arts to serve as judges. The prestigious Gold Award is $10,000. Chinese vocal artists aged 18 to 50 are welcome to register.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
Welcome back. The State Department is requesting $64 billion for its fiscal year 2025 budget today. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and to the Appropriations Subcommittee. He'll testify before the House tomorrow. This comes as the Biden administration plans to withhold certain weapons from Israel, a move hotly contested by some Republicans. Let's tune back into that Senate hearing now.
Time and again, the imperative of really bringing a determined focus to this, not making it an afterthought in the conduct of the war against Hamas, but an absolute priority. They've taken steps over these many months to open access points, going back to October, to have aid go in, but it has not been sufficient by far to meet the need. We saw much more significant progress over the last month or 6 weeks, particularly in the wake of a phone call between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu in early April, where we saw more access points opening. We saw a land route from Jordan being activated. We saw openings in the north, which was critical because aid to North Gaza was particularly deficient. That's improved. But now we've seen, unfortunately, the reverse. Because of the actions in and around Rafah, we see the critical transit points in the south, Rafah Gate itself, as well as Kerem Shalom, until recently being stopped or disrupted. So that the situation in the south now risks being even more egregious. But the restrictions that have been in place, in some cases, it's because of concerns about dual-use items and making sure that Israel could see and verify what was going in, given the history of dual use. In some instances, it's because of the war conditions that make it incredibly difficult. But there are also things that Israel can, should, and must do to further facilitate the distribution of aid, including much more effective deconfliction with those who are providing it. So convoys that are bringing the aid in can go about their work safely and securely. That remains insufficient.
Senator Paul.
Secretary Blinken, on your recent trip to China, news reports came back and said that you reserved your strongest language for China and its dealings with Russia, castigating Beijing for allowing the war to continue in Ukraine. The report went on to describe the exchange as such a blatant dressing down in the Chinese capital. Do you think publicly scolding China will make it more or less likely that they continue selling dual-use parts to Russia?
Senator, we've tried it both ways. We've had these conversations with China from some time in private, hoping to see a change. We haven't seen that, and it's important.
I would argue that we've only tried it one way. We've got the stick, and almost the majority of people who work for you, everybody wants to use the stick. Nobody's really considering that there is a carrot. So really, for the last, let's say, 5 years or more, your administration, the previous administration, not a lot different, really, that you put impediments to trade, you add sanctions, and then you scold them. And I mean, there is a school of philosophy or school of diplomacy that believes that public scolding, particularly in another country, can have the opposite effects, that actually you've either completely given up on this, nothing's working, so why don't we just read them the Riot Act? And that's kind of what it looked like. Yellen was also there recently, and she's described and told the Chinese government how it should run its economy, what sectors of its economy that they should or should not subsidize, and told them as well who they can conduct business with. And then she threatened to impose sanctions, more or less likely to actually get them to do. I mean, I think it's a misunderstanding of diplomacy in general to think that you going and scolding the Chinese, Yellen going and scolding the Chinese, that somehow they're going to go, oh my goodness, we've been wrong all along, and because they've yelled at us and treated us like school children, we're now going to change. I would think that the opposite might be true, that there might be a certain amount of child psychology to criticizing people, and that like a rebellious teenager, they actually might end up doing more. In addition to the threat of sanctions, in addition to the scolding, we now have the administration talking about more tariffs. So in June of 2019, then presidential candidate Joe Biden tweeted, "Trump doesn't get the basics. He thinks his tariffs are being paid for by China. Any freshman econ student would tell you that the American people are paying his tariffs." Remarkably accurate and true at that time, but now he's become jumping on the Trump train. But the thing about tariffs, regardless of who pays them, American consumers will pay for these. Tariffs are not good for the economic well-being of all Americans in general. But the question would become, when you add tariffs, so you're going to threaten sanctions, you're going to scold them, now you're going to add tariffs. More or less likely that they'll do what you want? I think less likely. Everything we're doing, everything the previous administration did, as well as this administration, is heading towards less tradement, disengagement from China. Part of diplomacy might be offering, well, I tell you what if you quit selling the dual-use parts to Russia? Maybe we could consider removing some sanctions on trade and actually trade more with you. So the threat of sanctions, the threat of tariffs, actually have some effects if you're willing to remove them. The history of sanctions is more, and then you're not doing enough, and people on the right here will say you got to do even more, we're going to pass legislative sanctions. Nobody talks about removing them, but that's the only way you'd get behavior to change. And so I really think that it's a fundamental misunderstanding sort of what's going on. The final point I would like to make, and I'll let you respond to this, is the Ukrainians still claim that victory includes the reclamation of all of its territory. Many NATO allies are beginning to question this. Czech President Petr Pavel, who once served as the chairman of NATO's military committee, recently stated that he believes it's naive to think that Ukraine will be able to regain the occupied territories from Russia. The commander-in-general of the Ukrainian army, until he was fired by Zelensky, had the same sort of comments. I think that it's not an unreasonable thing to believe that this war may well end in stalemate with people in place. Some say similar to the way Korea was. Nobody likes it, nobody wanted it, nobody agrees the Russians should be there, but they're there and they have a bigger army and more might than their neighbor. So if President Pavel is correct in his assessment that Ukraine's war aims are naive, one of the few negotiating items Ukraine possesses is a promise to remain a neutral country, not aligned militarily, yet you have repeatedly ruled out Ukraine remaining outside of NATO. If you take this off the table, you're taking off one of the things that actually is a negotiating item. My question to you is, are there any circumstances under which neutrality of Ukraine would be a negotiating item?
Thank you, Senator. Let me try to respond to both questions. First, if you want to look at hectoring or haranguing, I would invite you to look at the website of the Chinese Foreign Ministry on a daily basis in terms of what they say about us. Second, I'm not going to apologize to anyone for standing up for American workers and American companies, because here's what we're dealing with. And by the way, of course, you're right, we always try. And as a diplomat, I always try to engage our partners or adversaries diplomatically, quietly, to see if we can get the result. If we don't, then we have to use every means at our disposal, including calling them out. Let me, if I may, please address the question. So on this, what we've seen and what we're seeing now, and this goes to the tariff question, is China very deliberately using overcapacity in critical sectors to export its way out of its current economic troubles, and to do that in a way that undercuts and indeed could gut our own workers and industries.
But my question to you.
Up next, Russia's foreign minister says U.S. sanctions are putting people's lives at risk. Why he's making the allegation after a deadly helicopter crash in Iran. And the U.S. is close to a defense deal with Saudi Arabia, but there's a catch. What both sides are offering each other. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use My Pillows, $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
Do you know that Cars for Compassion is the best way to donate your car? Through this non-profit program, you can not only help us keep bringing the world independent and daringly truthful journalism, but also significantly impact the life of somebody who needs a vehicle. The Epoch Times fights misinformation and big tech censorship by being independent and unbound to advertisers. Every single contribution to Cars for Compassion is a powerful endorsement of our unwavering mission. All you have to do is go to carsforcompassion.org and let us know about your car, and we'll schedule a pickup time and email you a tax-deductible receipt. To do this, just click the link below. Support truth, compassion, and hope. Donate your car right now at www.carsforcompassion.org.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
And now we have some short headlines from Poland, Germany, and other European countries. Russia's foreign minister says U.S. sanctions are putting people's lives at risk. Sergei Lavrov cited comments made by Iran's foreign minister. This comes after Iran's president, foreign minister, and others were killed in a helicopter crash. Lavrov says U.S. sanctions against some countries include a ban on the supply of spare parts for American aircraft. The recent crash took place in a foggy mountain range in a decades-old helicopter. Poland has arrested 9 people charged with sabotage. The prime minister says the suspects acted on the orders of Russian services. He added that Poland's position as a hub for supplies to Ukraine has made it a key target for Russia. Poland is accusing Moscow of trying to destabilize the country. The suspects are being charged with beatings, arson, and attempted arson. Polish officials are collaborating with allies on the issue. The prime minister says the plots also affected Lithuania, Latvia, and possibly Sweden. The alleged leaders of a suspected plot to topple the German government are going on trial today. The case takes place at a special temporary courthouse. It was built to accommodate the large number of defendants, lawyers, and media dealing with the case. Over 200 witnesses are expected at the trial. The defendants are charged with belonging to a terrorist organization. They allegedly planned to end the existing state order in Germany. They're also charged with preparation of high treasonous undertakings. Prosecutors say the suspects believed in conspiracy theories, including QAnon ideology, and that they were convinced that Germany is ruled by a so-called deep state. Cannes Film Festival workers are demanding improved pay and worker benefits. They gathered in the French city to protest today. The ongoing dispute is between part-time freelance union workers and the government. It's related to proposed changes to labor laws and unemployment benefits set to take effect in July. A new Senate report puts 3 European automakers under the spotlight. BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Volkswagen have reportedly bought parts made with forced labor in China. The investigation by the Senate Finance Committee was released yesterday. It found the automakers bought parts made by a sanctioned Chinese company. The firm was blacklisted under a 2021 law for using forced labor. Senate Finance Committee Chair John Wyden is now calling on lawmakers for stricter enforcement. Wyden said the automakers' self-policing is clearly not doing the job. He called on Customs and Border Protection to step up enforcement. Beijing has been accused of using forced labor to suppress racial minorities, such as the Uyghurs, in China's Xinjiang region. The automakers responded to the report, saying they have taken actions to bring their cars into compliance with the law. A former China hawk is facing retaliation from Beijing. China announced sanctions today on former U.S. lawmaker Mike Gallagher, who often promoted tough-on-China legislation in the House. Gallagher served as the chairman of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Just 5 weeks ago, he stepped down and left the House. Now Beijing has banned Gallagher from entering China or trading with Chinese organizations and individuals. Any assets he holds in the country will also be frozen. Gallagher led numerous pushbacks against China, including probes on China's forced labor accusations in the TikTok bill. He also led a congressional delegation to Taiwan this February, which angered Beijing. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the United States and Europe need to respond to China's industrial policies in a strategic and united way. She says the aim is to keep manufacturers in business on both sides of the Atlantic.
China's industrial policy may seem remote as we sit here in this room, but if we do not respond strategically and in a united way, the viability of businesses in both our countries and around the world could be at risk. The U.S. and Europe, along with many others, are concerned by China's actions, from its pursuit of economic coercion to macroeconomic imbalances that are leading to industrial overcapacity.
On a trip to Germany, Yellen said China is flooding global markets with cheap exports, which threatens both American and European firms as well as emerging market countries. She says the viability of businesses in Germany, the U.S., and around the world could be at risk. Last week, the Biden administration announced steep new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, semiconductors, and steel and other strategic industries. Yellen warned Chinese officials in April that the U.S. would not accept the excess production of these goods. The United States and Saudi Arabia are close to a final agreement on a defense pact after progress in talks with the Saudis over the weekend. White House National Security spokesman John Kirby said the two sides are close to a bilateral agreement that is near final. The accord is expected to call for formal U.S. guarantees to defend Saudi Arabia and give the country access to more advanced U.S. weaponry. In return, the Saudis would stop buying weapons from China and restrict Beijing's investment in the country. Negotiators have discussed sales of U.S. F-35 fighter jets to the Saudis. Saudi Arabia has desired the high-tech fighter jet for years, but any deal must satisfy a long-standing agreement with Israel that U.S. weapons sold in the region must not impair Israel's military edge in the Middle East. A U.S. official said negotiations will have to ultimately consider Israel and Palestine. And before we head to break, if you have any feedback, please email us at news.today@ntd.com. And stay with us, we'll have more stories in just a moment.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked
for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard, but that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
Lord Heavenly Father, I pray to you today to guide us tomorrow. Give us strength as we face death. Help us not to be afraid, as we know that we are going to be coming to your kingdom.
A Singapore Airlines flight from London hits severe turbulence, forcing it to make an emergency landing in Bangkok. One passenger was killed and another 30 were injured. In the New York criminal trial, the Trump defense team rests its case after their controversial witness completes his testimony. President Trump did not testify. Our legal correspondent has the latest. Two key figures in former President Trump's Georgia election interference case face re-election bids today. More on that and key races in 4 state primaries today. European nations reacting to the International Criminal Court's decision to seek arrest warrants for Israeli leaders. Hear what the European Union and the UK's Prime Minister have to say. Russian forces have started military drills that involve non-strategic nuclear weapons. Moscow says the move is to defend against threats from the West. Retaliation from Beijing, the Chinese Communist regime has imposed sanctions against former U.S. lawmakers and top China hawk Mike Gallagher. Details on the new measures.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Thank you for joining us. One person is dead and 30 more are injured after a flight from London to Singapore hit Turbulence today. The flight had to make an emergency landing in Bangkok, Thailand. About 210 passengers and 18 crew members were on board. Eyewitness footage showed damaged overhead cabins and injured passengers being carried out by stretchers after the flight landed. Videos posted on the Line messaging platform showed ambulances streaming toward the scene. 18 people are now hospitalized and another 12 were treated for their injuries. Tracking data captured by Flight Radar 24 shows the plane tilting upward and returning to its cruising altitude over the space of a minute. A passenger said a dramatic drop led to those not wearing seatbelts hitting the ceiling. The aircraft sent a squawk code at that time, an international emergency signal. Singapore Airlines offered its condolences to the family of the deceased passenger. And here's the update on former President Trump's so-called hush money trial in New York. Trump's team rested their case this morning, which Trump hinted at outside of the courthouse.
And I'm fighting for 300 million people. I mean, I have no choice. It's not that I like doing this, sitting in an icebox all day for 7, 8, 9 hours. And it's a very cold room, I will tell you that. But I'm doing this because our country needs it. Our Constitution's under threat. Our country needs it. So here I am. I will be doing something in the morning and then probably coming back in the afternoon. And we'll be resting pretty quickly. Resting meaning resting the case. I won't be resting. I don't rest. I'd like to rest sometimes, but I don't get to rest.
Trump's team isn't calling any more witnesses, and both sides will present closing arguments next week. The judge ordered the jury to return for summations next Tuesday. They will be adjourned until then. The last witness to testify was Robert Costello, who served as an advisor to the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen. Prosecutors had a brief cross-examination of Costello this morning. Many Trump allies showed up in court today to support Trump, including his oldest son, Donald Trump Jr., Senator Eric Schmidt, and 6 GOP House members. Voters will decide whether 2 key players in the Georgia election interference case against former President Trump will keep their jobs. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee are both on the ballot for Georgia's primary and court elections today. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and other primaries happening today.
Fani Willis is the prosecutor who obtained a sprawling racketeering indictment against Trump and 18 others last year. McAfee, a judge who was randomly assigned to preside over the case. Willis has a single challenger in the Democratic primary, and if she wins, will face off against a Republican candidate in the fall. McAfee has one opponent in a nonpartisan contest that will be the final word on whether he gets to keep his seat. A second opponent was disqualified. The intense public interest in the election case has thrust both Willis and McAfee into the national spotlight, giving them greater name recognition than occupants of their offices might otherwise have. In Georgia's 3rd District, Trump-backed Brian Jack is competing against Mike Dugan, Mike Crane, and Philip Singleton. 3 other states, Kentucky, Idaho, and Oregon, are also holding primaries Tuesday. In Kentucky, GOP Representative Thomas Massey faces challengers Eric Dieters and Michael McGinnis. In Idaho, Republican Congressman Mike Simpson is up against financial advisor Scott Cleveland. In Oregon's Deep Blue 3rd District, former Multnomah County Commissioner Sushila Jayapal, sister of Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, is a top contender. These races will set the stage for crucial matchups in the November elections. California voters are choosing a replacement for former Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday. 2 Republicans are competing in the special election, ensuring a GOP win. The GOP will have 218 members to the Democrats' 213 once the winner is sworn in. That means Republicans will be able to afford 2 defections instead of just 1. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Now to the presidential election. Former President Trump overtakes President Biden for the first time in fundraising. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that and on a couple of big donations to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign.
Former President Trump reported taking in over $75 million in April. The haul was boosted by a record-setting $50.5 million raised during an event with donors early in the month in Palm Beach, Florida. President Biden's campaign raised a bit over $50 million in April. Biden's campaign continues to have a considerably larger war chest. It had $84 million in the bank at the end of April. The Trump campaign reported having $49 million. A large war chest has allowed Biden's campaign to undertake major advertising campaigns in battleground states. The election could hinge on just a few key states. The focus is on 7 swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, with a total of 93 electoral votes at stake. Biden won them all except for North Carolina in 2020, but recent polls show Trump leading in several of the crucial states this time around. Trump has his biggest polling lead in Nevada, where he is +7, and Georgia, where he is +6, according to The Hill. The New York Times poll gives him even stronger leads in the 2 states of 12% in Nevada and 10% in Georgia. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are the closest, where polls show Trump up by 1.7% and 1% according to The Hill. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could play a major role in the election. Kennedy's campaign collected multi-million-dollar checks from both his running mate and a major supporter of former President Donald Trump in April. Kennedy's running mate Nicole Shanahan sent Team Kennedy $8 million on April 1st. The gift followed up on a $2 million contribution Shanahan sent after Kennedy announced her as his running mate. American Values 2024, a fund backing Kennedy's run, also collected its second $5 million check from Timothy Mellon in April. With that donation, Mellon's financial support for Kennedy in 2024 rose to $10 million. The heir to the Mellon family fortune is also a major backer of President Trump. In January, he sent $5 million to the super PAC Make America Great Again. Kennedy has access to more than $31 million in cash on hand as of the end of April, according to monthly disclosure statements. The Kennedy campaign says the cash infusion gives them all the money they need to get on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Kennedy would draw about 13% of national votes in a 3-way matchup with Biden and Trump, a recent Reuters Ipsos poll shows. It's unclear whether he would draw more from Democrats or Republicans. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Senator Robert Menendez arrived at court this morning as his corruption trial continued. Prosecutors have called Menendez the central figure in a 5-year scheme. He allegedly accepted bribes in exchange for political favors and aiding the governments of Egypt and Qatar. The senator has pleaded not guilty to 16 criminal charges, including fraud, acting as a foreign agent, and obstruction. The trial could last until early July. And Hunter Biden is asking a federal court to delay his felony gun trial. He cites constitutional issues related to drug use, First Amendment rights, and a scheduling conflict with his California tax case. His request, filed on Monday, asks for a rehearing before the full panel of 14 judges in the U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals. A 3-judge panel previously rejected his bid on May 9th. Biden argues that 3 new developments have occurred since that rejection. His legal team says there is no urgency for a June 3rd trial. His attorneys note he has been sober for 5 years and has not possessed a gun since 2018. They claim the indictment and tax charges are politically motivated. Coming up, Secretary of State Antony Blinken testifies before Congress on the State Department's budget. See the dramatic moment when anti-Israel protesters interrupt his speech. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. is close to a defense deal with Saudi Arabia, but the Israel-Palestine issue could determine how the agreement plays out. And a student protest at Yale University. At least 150 students seated near the front of a graduation ceremony stood up together and marched out. More on their demonstration in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth.
without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-984-7221. That's 1-800-984-7221 or go to getbullseyepro.com.
We're in the nation's capital asking the important questions so that you're in the know. Join us daily, Monday through Friday, on the Capitol Report on NTD News.
Thanks for staying with us. Former President Trump's legal team has rested their case. Robert Costello, an attorney who once advised Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen, ended his testimony today. Judge Juan Merchan excused the jury and scheduled closing arguments for next Tuesday. The jury is expected to begin deliberations next Wednesday. Merchan did not officially rule on the defense's motion to dismiss the charges, but attorneys are expected to return for Monday yesterday. First, Cohen, a convicted liar, is now an admitted thief. Today, at the end of the day, defense witness Robert Costello added his own heat to the proceedings. Before we get to today's testimony, catch us up on what happened yesterday.
Well, Robert Costello was expected to be a key witness for the defense when he got on the stand yesterday, but because of his courtroom antics, he might have hurt the Trump's defense in this case. Now, Robert Costello is an attorney who says that he represented Michael Cohen back when Michael Cohen was being investigated by the FBI for making that $130,000 payment. Now, Robert Costello says that Michael Cohen was not really, he said Michael Cohen had told him repeatedly that Trump knew nothing about that $130,000 payment. But then he angered the judge. He made the judge angry because the prosecution was repeatedly objecting to the questions being asked by the defense, and they were also objecting to some of the answers that Costello was giving. And at one point, Costello said out loud, "Geez," in response to one of the rulings that the judge made. Later on, he was cutting his eyes over at the judge. And at that point, the judge yelled at Costello real loud so that the juries could hear it, basically saying, "You don't know what proper courtroom decorum is." He yelled out loud, and then he said, "Are you trying to stare me down?" At which point he cleared the courtroom. So experts have said that this kind of back and forth between the judge and a witness will have a really strong impact on the jury's view of this witness. Now, they hold the judge in high regard. And because the judge responded in the way that he did, the jury's going to think there's a problem with this witness, and this could hurt Trump's defense.
Wow, yeah, it sounds heated indeed. Costello was cross-examined by the prosecution both yesterday and today. What can you tell us about that testimony he gave?
Well, when Michael Cohen testified, he said that he never hired Robert Costello to be his attorney and that he didn't want to have anything to do with him because he was friends with Rudy Giuliani. So when the prosecution cross-examined Costello yesterday and today, they asked him if he really represented Cohen, and he said yes. And then they brought out emails from Cohen to Costello basically saying, I don't want to hire you, I don't want your firm to represent me, I don't want to have anything to do with you because of your relationship with Rudy Giuliani. Now, Cohen had also testified that Costello was pressuring him because Cohen was President Trump's personal attorney, and Costello felt like this would be good for his firm to represent the president's personal attorney. So when the prosecution asked Costello whether or not he was pressuring Cohen, of course he said no, not at all. But then they showed emails from him to Cohen, which seemed to appear that he was pressuring Cohen. So again, the jury is seeing all of this back and forth, and I don't know whether or not they're going to remember this testimony he gave yesterday about Cohen telling him that Trump repeatedly didn't know about this $130,000. Now, the defense did on redirect bring out the fact that Cohen had said that he was very happy to be on the team, and at one point they had sent him or handed him a retainer agreement, but Costello said he never signed it.
And just the last question here, Arlene. Now that the defense has rested its case, what happens next?
Well, next, the judge has adjourned for the day. He has excused the jury and asked them to return next Tuesday for closing arguments. So the jury will hear the closing arguments on Tuesday, and then they are expected to begin deliberations on Wednesday. Now, as you said earlier, later this afternoon at 2:15, the attorneys will return to the courtroom to discuss the charges, the instructions that will be given to the jury next week. And then after that, they will adjourn until next Tuesday. Back to you.
All right, Arlene Richards in New York City, thank you. The United States and Saudi Arabia are close to a final agreement on a defense pact after progress in talks with the Saudis over the weekend. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said the two sides are close to a bilateral agreement that is near final. The accord is expected to call for formal U.S. guarantees to defend Saudi Arabia and give the country access to more advanced U.S. weaponry. In return, the Saudis would stop buying weapons from China and restrict Beijing's investment in the country. Negotiators have discussed sales of U.S. F-35 fighter jets to the Saudis. Saudi Arabia has desired the high-tech fighter jet for years, but any deal must satisfy a long-standing agreement with Israel that U.S. weapons sold in the region must not impair Israel's military edge in the Middle East. A U.S. official said negotiators will have to ultimately consider Israel and Palestine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is testifying before Congress on budget requests for the State Department, but his opening statement was disrupted by anti-Israel protesters.
The need for U.S. global leadership and for cooperation with allies and partners has never been greater. The People's Republic of China is pursuing military...
was 6 years old when Israelis killed her. His was 6 years old. Blinken, you will be remembered as the butcher of Gaza. You will be remembered for murdering innocent...
Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee asked officers to remove the protester from the hearing, but Blinken's testimony was disrupted a second time by another protester. Blinken's testimony eventually resumed. He focused on Communist China's military and economic pursuits and said they challenged the U.S. vision for a free and open global order. The Secretary of State also highlighted the wars in Gaza and Ukraine. He requested over $58 billion for the State Department and U.S. aid for fiscal year 2025. $2 billion will fund infrastructure around the world. $1 billion will go to the World Bank, and $1.7 billion is for international organizations, including the UN. And more countries are reacting to the International Criminal Court's decision to seek arrest warrants for Israeli leaders. Unlike the US, the European Union has chosen not to condemn the court, but the UK is taking a different stance.
On ICC, I can only say that there is established EU position on the ICC in the Council conclusions from June last year, where the member states have said very much that the European Union supports the ICC for its central role in bringing justice to victims in all situations under its jurisdiction.
Well, this is a deeply unhelpful development. Of course, it's still subject to a final decision, but it remains deeply unhelpful nonetheless. There is no moral equivalence between a democratic state exercising its lawful right to self-defense and the terrorist group Hamas.
Earlier today, Israel urged nations of the civilized world to oppose the International Criminal Court, or ICC's, arrest warrants. The government asked nations that despise terrorists to stand by Israel. The European Union said it is following the developments and treats the ICC as an important and independent international institution. The European Affairs Minister for Ireland, which is part of the EU, says the ICC should be allowed to do its work. The Foreign Minister of Sweden took a similar approach, saying his country defers to the ICC's decisions and upholds the multinational system. Starting with the anti-Israel protests on college campuses in Ann Arbor, Michigan, police moved in early this morning to clear the encampment at the University of Michigan. The encampment was set up in late April near the end of the school year. Video footage shows officers wearing helmets with face shields moving in before sunrise. Police used what appeared to be an irritant to spray people. After the camp was cleared, nearby buildings, including the libraries, were closed. The university president said in a statement that the encampment had become a threat to safety. Less than a week ago, protesters showed up at the home of a school official and placed fake body bags on her lawn. Scores of graduating students staged a walkout from Yale University's commencement exercise yesterday. They were protesting Yale's financial ties to weapons makers and its response to anti-Israel demonstrations on the Ivy League campus. At least 150 students seated near the front of the audience stood up together, turned their backs to the stage, and paraded out of the ceremony. Many of the protesters carried small banners with slogans like "Books, Not Bombs" and "Divest from War." Some wore red-colored latex gloves symbolizing bloodied hands. Others' signs read, "Drop the charges" and "Protect free speech," in reference to 45 people arrested in police crackdowns last month at demonstrations. No mention of the protest was made from the stage. And FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg says he plans to step down. The move comes after a months-long scandal over sexual harassment and other misconduct at the top bank regulator. Gruenberg's 5-year term ends in 2028. He says he will step down once a successor is confirmed. The pending departure of the Wall Street critic comes as a critical time for the agency. It has only been a year since 3 major banks failed, and many lenders continue to struggle due to high interest rates. Gruenberg had clung to his job since November when a Wall Street Journal report exposed widespread misconduct at the FDIC. The newspaper report was confirmed by an external review this month. Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown called for Gruenberg to be replaced yesterday. That was a key development that piled pressure on the FDIC chair. The Environmental Protection Agency says cyberattacks against water utilities are becoming more frequent and more severe. The agency issued an enforcement alert yesterday urging water systems to take immediate action to protect the nation's drinking water. The EPA said 70% of the utilities inspected over the last year were not up to standard to guard against cyber breaches. The agency said China, Russia, and Iran are all actively seeking the capability to disable U.S. critical infrastructure, including water and wastewater. The EPA and the White House warned water is an attractive target. It's a lifeline that often lacks the resources and technical capacity to adopt rigorous security practices. The EPA said it would train personnel at water facilities to address cybersecurity at no cost. And a federal appeals court today revived a lawsuit by American Airlines pilots over the carrier's failure to pay them for short-term military leave. In a unanimous decision, the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia said a reasonable jury could find short-term military leave comparable to jury duty or bereavement leave, which American Airlines does pay pilots for. The courts revived a class action by pilots who took short-term military leave, defined as 16 or fewer days from January 2013 to October 2021. Without ruling on the merits, Circuit Judge Ariana Freeman said the leaves had similar lengths and pilots had little or no control over when to take them. She also said jurors could find that military leave and jury duty leave shared a common purpose: civic duty. And back to Boeing, they will invest a total of $176 million in 3 Canadian aerospace development projects as part of an agreement to sell Poseidon military surveillance planes to Ottawa. Canada and the U.S. reached a multi-billion-dollar deal agreement last November for the purchase of up to 16 Poseidon and related equipment. As part of the agreement, Boeing agreed to invest in Canadian companies. The money is to be spent in the province of Quebec, will be divided between an aerospace innovation zone, a center focusing on 4-seat air taxi, and a firm researching advanced landing gear. And some Honda drivers need to take a trip to the dealer. More than 187,000 Honda Ridgeline trucks have been recalled due to a rear view camera issue. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says in certain cold, wintry weather conditions, electric wiring tied to the camera might fatigue or break. That could prevent the driver from getting a proper rear view image, which could pose a potential crash risk. Honda says it has received just over 400 claims relating to the issue as of earlier this month. So far, there are no reports of any related injuries or deaths. The recall is in effect for Honda Ridgeline pickup trucks with model years 2020 through 2024. More information is available on the NHTSA website. And Palmer Candy Company has expanded the recall of its white-coated confectionery items due to a potential salmonella threat. The Food and Drug Administration says the company's patriotic white fudge cookies and drizzled caramel corn are now included in the recall. Earlier this month, Palmer recalled several other products, including caramel swirl pretzels, cookies and cream yummy chow, munchie medley, and peanut butter snack mix. The affected products were sold nationwide to distributors in at least 17 states. No illnesses have been reported in connection with the threat. Salmonella can cause fever, nausea, and abdominal pains. Consumers who bought these items are advised to return them for a full refund. Coming up, Secretary Yellen asks Europe to help the U.S. deal with an oversupply of Chinese goods. She spoke in Germany, saying it's a global issue. Russian forces have started military drills that involve non-strategic nuclear weapons. Moscow says the move is to defend against threats from the West. And Cannes Film Festival workers are protesting. That's as the annual event takes place this week. Why they're protesting and what the French government has to do with it. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shen-Yun.
Hi folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or or off, compounded, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with YRefi, and they don't care about what happened with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com. YRefi, do well by doing good.
Presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. Preliminaries of the 2024 NTD International Traditional Chinese Martial Arts Competition will be held across Germany, Taiwan, and New York. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide in September 2024. For more information, please call 1-888-477-9228.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wright. We thank you for joining us and watching America's Hope here on NTD News. Bottom line is, I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but let's give you some good news in the midst of the bad news. Watch us nightly, right here on NTD News, for a full dose of America's Hope.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the United States and Europe need to respond to China's industrial policies in a strategic and united way. She says the aim is to keep manufacturers in business on both sides of the Atlantic.
China's industrial policy may seem remote as we sit here in this room, but if we do not respond strategically and in a united way, the viability of businesses in both our countries and around the world could be at risk. The U.S. and Europe, along with many others, are concerned by China's actions, from its pursuit of economic coercion to macroeconomic imbalances that are leading to industrial overcapacity.
Yellen was in Germany and said China's excess industrial capacity threatened both American and European firms, as well as the industrial development of emerging market countries. She said the viability of businesses in Germany, the U.S., and around the world could be at risk. Her comments come a week after the Biden administration announced steep new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, semiconductors, steel, and other strategic industries. She warned Chinese officials in April that the U.S. would not accept the excess production of those goods in order not to flood global markets with cheap exports. A new Senate report puts 3 European automakers under the spotlight. BMW, Jaguar Land Rover, and Volkswagen have reportedly bought parts made with forced labor in China. The investigation by the Senate Finance Committee was released yesterday. It found that automakers bought parts made by a sanctioned Chinese company. The firm was blacklisted under a 2021 law for using forced labor. Senate Finance Committee Chair Ron Wyden is now calling on lawmakers for stricter enforcement. Wyden said the automakers' self-policing is clearly not doing the job. He called on Customs and Border Protection to step up enforcement. Beijing has been accused of using forced labor to suppress racial minorities such as the Uyghurs in China's Xinjiang region. The automakers responded to the report, saying they have taken action to bring their cars into compliance with the law. A former China hawk is facing retaliation from Beijing. China announced sanctions today on former U.S. lawmaker Mike Gallagher, who often promoted tough-on-China legislation in the House. Gallagher served as the chairman of the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Just 5 weeks ago, he stepped down and left the House. Now Beijing has banned Gallagher from entering China or trading with Chinese organizations and individuals. Any assets he holds in the country will also be frozen. Gallagher led numerous pushbacks against China, including probes on China's forced labor accusations and the TikTok bill. He also led a congressional delegation to Taiwan this February, which angered China. As for Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky says Western allies are taking too long to make decisions on military support. Reuters had an exclusive interview with him in Kyiv on Monday. Take a look.
We are very grateful to our partners that they are helping, but this is happening so slow.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told Reuters in an exclusive interview on Monday that his Western allies are taking too long to make key decisions on sending military support to Ukraine.
Every decision takes ages. We arrive at this decision later on, but it's like 1 year too late.
Zelensky also said he was pushing Western partners to get more directly involved in the war by helping to intercept Russian missiles and to allow Ukraine to use Western weapons against enemy military equipment at the border and further inside Russian territory.
I'm sure we can have a proper dialogue, and we can reach the consensus regarding the long-range missiles to hit the weapons of Russians located alongside the Ukrainian border. I believe we will reach this decision, because the same happened with giving us tanks and armored vehicles, Patriots, right?
The United States has resisted Ukrainian calls to use its missiles against internationally recognized Russian territory, reflecting concerns in the West about the risk of escalation.
Everybody is afraid of escalation, so Ukrainians are dying. Well, everybody got used to that. That's not escalation.
Zelensky's remarks come at a perilous time for his forces. They are outnumbered and outgunned by Russia's army, which recently crossed the border into the city of Kharkiv. Zelensky acknowledged Ukraine was losing territory in the northeast, but he said the situation on the battlefield had improved.
Today, the situation is controlled. A week ago, it was more difficult.
And now we have some short headlines from Poland, Germany, and other European countries. Russian forces have begun military exercises involving the training and use of non-strategic nuclear weapons. Moscow says the drills aim to defend Russia's territorial integrity in response to perceived threats. Russia's defense ministry announced the news today. It says comments by Western officials, including French President Emmanuel Macron, who floated the possibility of sending European troops to Ukraine, and British Foreign Secretary David Cameron, who said Ukraine had the right to use weapons provided by London to fight Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the drills earlier this month. A Russian physicist was convicted of treason today and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. That's according to a Reuters report at the court. 77-year-old Anatoly Maslov is one of a string of eminent Russian scientists who have been charged with treason in recent years. His work was relevant to the development of hypersonic missiles, cutting-edge weapons capable of traveling at up to 10 times the speed of sound to punch through air defense systems. Maslov was convicted by a St. Petersburg court following a trial that was closed to the media. He maintains his innocence. A former army commander in Russia has been arrested. A state-run agency reports that he is suspected of large-scale fraud and has already appealed. Ivan Popov was dismissed from the army last year after telling leadership Russia was in a dire situation. As a commander in southern Ukraine, he raised the issue of Russian soldiers' deaths and the lack of weapons to counter Ukrainian artillery. Poland has arrested 9 people charged with sabotage. The prime minister says the suspects acted on the orders of Russian services. He added that Poland's position as a hub for supplies to Ukraine has made it a key target for Russia. Poland is accusing Moscow of trying to destabilize the country. The suspects are being charged with beatings, arson, and attempted arson. Polish officials are collaborating with allies on the issue. The prime minister says the plots also affected Lithuania, Latvia, and possibly Sweden. And the alleged leaders of a suspected plot to topple the German government are going on trial today. The case takes place at a special temporary courthouse. It was built to accommodate the large number of defendants, lawyers, and media dealing with the case. Over 200 witnesses are expected at the trial. The defendants are charged with belonging to a terrorist organization. They allegedly plan to end the existing state order in Germany. They're also charged with preparation of high treasonous undertaking. Prosecutors say the suspects believed in conspiracy theories, including QAnon ideology, and that they were convinced that Germany is ruled by a so-called deep state. Cannes Film Festival workers are demanding improved pay and worker benefits. They gathered in the French city today to protest. The ongoing dispute is between part-time freelance union workers and the government. It's related to proposed changes to labor laws and unemployment benefits set to take effect in July. Still to come, the UK's Royal Mint unveils a commemorative coin honoring D-Day. It comes just days before the 80th anniversary of the pivotal World War II event. Algerian tribes come together to play a traditional game. It's been played for 5 centuries and aims to address conflicts through the sport. And a 6-year-old boy and his father are making waves on social media as their music touches the hearts of people around the world. What's their secret to keeping their family bond alive? Find out in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
These are all farmers, maybe
no,
not this
not
one.
A farm anymore.
But here's a farm, right?
No, there's also not a farm anymore.
All these people shut down because of the government policies?
Yeah.
The government wants to control the food, so we don't eat meat, but we eat insect.
As the price of staples goes through the roof, people will say, I can't afford a steak anymore, so all right, I'll eat your stupid crickets.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion.
And make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed. It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters. But when you say it,
the life of a kid like me can be changed.
So, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes.
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 Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me. And me.
Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch.
And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
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 Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
For the day's top headlines and the news you need to know, tune in right here to NTD Evening News.
Welcome back. The UK's Royal Mint has unveiled a commemorative coin in tribute to Allied troops and veterans. The unveiling yesterday comes just before the 80th anniversary of D-Day during World War II.
D-Day started on June 6, 1944. It was pivotal in the outcome of World War II. The Royal Mint has honored the event and its participants with a commemorative coin.
The coin depicts Allied soldiers disembarking from the landing craft with offensive aircraft in the sky. It's also marked with the 5 beaches used during Operation Overlord, so Omaha, Utah, Gold, Sword and Juno. This was designed by David Lawrence with help from the Imperial War Museum to ensure we had an accurate depiction of the day.
The Royal Mint is honored to commemorate the historic event, as they have done for many others in the past.
For centuries, the Royal Mint has marked important historic moments on coins, so we're extremely proud to be producing this coin in memory of all of the soldiers and for their bravery on those days.
To mark the coin's release, the D-Day coin's design was recreated on Gold Beach, France. More than 2 million Allied soldiers, sailors, pilots, and medics from a dozen countries were involved in Operation Overlord. Nearly 160,000 Allied troops landed in Normandy on D-Day. More than 4,400 Allied troops were killed on D-Day itself. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
In India, an iron pillar has been exposed to the elements for over 1,600 years, and it hasn't rusted. What's the secret behind this mysterious pillar? Inside New Delhi's UNESCO-listed Qutb Minar complex is an imposing 23-foot tall, 6-ton iron pillar. It has a decorative top that's even older than the complex itself. The 5th century pillar has defied corrosion for over 1,600 years, and the remarkable resilience continues to captivate travelers today. It wasn't until 2003 that experts cracked the mystery of its resilience. They found that the pillar, primarily made of wrought iron, has a high phosphorus content and lacks sulfur and magnesium, unlike modern iron. Ancient craftsmen used a technique called forge welding, which is uncommon in modern practices. Researchers say this method kept the high phosphorus content intact and contributed to the pillar's enduring strength. Every spring, Algerians hailing from 2 tribes come together to play a traditional game. It's been played for 5 centuries and aims to unite and address conflicts through sport. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on keeping the old tradition alive.
The Beni Mesra and Halali tribes gather for Kora. They've been playing this game for 500 years.
When the spring comes with its nice days, tribes of Beni Mesra and Halali meet here. They used to play this game to reconcile and resolve their conflicts. Those who haven't met for 3 or 4 months meet here and play the Kora.
Kora is played between men from the 2 tribes once a week during the spring. They compete for a total of 7 times.
They used to play it in the past to pray for rainfall. It's believed when they play from that side of Moyan, it rains, and from the other side, the spring comes.
The sticks and balls used in the game are made from tree wood.
We make the sticks from olive trees because they are thick, while the ball is made of heather trees. We sculpt a piece of wood until it becomes a ball.
Fathers bring their sons to the Kora game and teach them how to play.
We bring our children to learn. In the past, they used to come here to reconcile and resolve their conflicts. They would sit here and recite Al-Fatiha, reconcile, play Kora, and return to their homes happy.
Now these elders hope to pass the tradition down to future generations. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A picturesque Japanese town is putting up a giant mesh barrier to block a popular selfie spot near Mount Fuji. The town of Fujikawaguchiko has become overrun with foreign tourists trying to get the perfect photo of Japan's most famous mountain. Specifically, tourists are standing in front of a Lawson's store, part of the Japanese convenience store chain, to get a shot of the peaceful mountain behind it. Now the town has had enough and is putting up the mesh barrier to block the view. Japan has been experiencing over-tourism issues since reopening after the pandemic in late 2022. March 2024 was the country's all-time biggest tourism month, with more than 3 million foreign tourists entering the country. Many of the tourists head straight to Mount Fuji, leaving garbage and causing erosion along the way. A new study suggests biking may help with knee pain and arthritis. The study, published earlier this month in Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise, found people who biked at any point in their lives were 17% more likely to develop knee pain. They were also 21% less likely to develop arthritis with pain in the knee. The observational study only shows an association between cycling and less pain and joint damage. It doesn't explain why biking was helpful or how often people should do it. But the authors believed cycling builds muscles around the knees without putting too much strain on the joints. And the 6-year-old Kyle Lim and his dad are making waves on social media. He and his father have over 400,000 followers on Instagram alone. Together they sing covers of old American songs. Their music has touched the hearts of people from all over the world. Let's take a look.
When Kale Lim was only 2 years old, he stepped up to his father's microphone, put on a headset, and began to sing. He belted out, "Rain, rain, go away." Little did Kale or his family know that he would soon begin a successful music career. Now Kale is a 6-year-old making waves on the internet. He and his father have a combined total of over 400,000 followers on Instagram alone.
Our family is, it's a fun family. We really love music, and that's how it all started.
Although they are a tight-knit family, things weren't always easy for them. Kale's father was working in the Philippines for years.
But I've been away with my little ones. I only see my kid 1 month every year.
Kale went viral at the age of 4, doing a cover of a Bee Gees song. Mr. Lim recorded it, and millions of viewers heard Kale's version of "How Deep Is Your Love." Now his fans love listening to the father-son duets.
When he was 4, he went viral by himself, and because it's really great listening to that's not a normal 4-year-old. But I guess now that we started singing together, it went viral. It's probably because the father and son bond that we really had. It's just we're having fun.
What does Mr. Lim say is the most important thing for families to do?
It's actually just the time. You have to give your time with your little one. Actually, that's the most important thing.
And Kale's current favorite song?
I Want It That Way.
By what? By who? I Want It That Way. Backstreet Boys.
Kale and his dad plan on continuing to sing more duets for their social media fans. His dad also wants to use their platform to stress the importance of family bonding. Kale says other kids who want to sing should go for it.
That I want it that way. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a heartache.
How adorable is that? All right, for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world.